Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballogy skills assessment. Please visit ballogy.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. I love getting to ask people about their daily habits. Tim Ferriss, his book Tools of Titans is one that really inspired me to kind of look into my own daily habits, and just knowing your schedule and all of the things that you're juggling, what daily habits set you up for success?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, it all goes back to my time with the Lord. You know, everybody lives their life according to something. And for me to be successful in my coaching day in and day out, and to be the kind of man that I need to be, the kind of leader, the kind of husband I need to be to all the different groups of people, to my wife, to my kids, to my players, to the administration, to the other students that make up the body here at East Texas Baptist, you know, first and foremost is my personal time, you know, with the Lord. And that's a very important thing. And, you know, I'm different when I don't have that time, right?
Yeah.
Versus when I do. And everybody's a little different. I know not everyone will necessarily agree with that. But for me, it is the most important thing I do on a daily basis. And so for me, that time kind of sets me in a good place mentally, in a good place emotionally. I kind of fill up my cup to where I'm able to pour out into others all day. And so that's where I get my feeling and to where I get ready for my day every day. And that could be as simple as my time in the Word before I leave my house, or it may be on my commute here. I have about a 45-minute commute every day to campus. And I use a lot of that time to meditate and to pray and to listen to certain kind of songs to get me in the right frame of mind for the day. But that's one of the habits, and probably the most important habit I have on a daily basis. The second thing that helps me be successful is just my time exercising. You know, the older I get, I'm not a young pup anymore. You know, I may not look like I'm too old, but I want you to know I'm not who I used to be. But all that being said, my time exercising is the most important thing to keep the stress out of my life. And you know this. I mean, you're all about it as well. But you know, I run on the elliptical every day, you know, for 45 minutes. You know, my time in the weight room, and I'm not a big bulk guy, but I'm a more maintained,
functional movement. Yeah,
down kind of thing. That's right, exactly. I don't want to get hurt. That's the other.
That's right.
But you know, I think my cardio, my weight training, really goes in to me keeping the stress off of my life, not being overwhelmed by things that could overwhelm me if I don't have an outlet. It keeps me from blowing up on people, things of that nature. I think that's important, you know, especially when you're in the season too, because the stress builds, right? We're all under incredible stress. And then the other thing I would say just in my daily habits is just keeping coaching in my life in perspective. Let me expound a little bit on that. I have a ministry, and I mentioned it just a minute ago, where I'm you know, when season's over, you know, when I hit the ground running in April, you know, I'm on the road, and I'm on the road until August, you know, and so it's a great thing. But the reason I do that, and I don't recommend it for everybody, but the reason I feel like the Lord's put that in my life is that it keeps my life in perspective. And what I mean by that is this: if it ever becomes about just wins and losses for me, that's not a good place for me to be. And it's real easy for it just to become about wins and losses. Heck, we're in a profession where if you win, you get a contract extension. If you lose, you get fired. And it's all public, right? I mean, that's our profession. Nobody else has a profession like that. If you get let go at a company, they give you a severance package. You walk away and say that, you know, that you quit or whatever. And they let you.
It was mutual.
You know,
it was mutual.
Coaching, in coaching, it comes out in the paper. You were fired. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing else like it. But if it ever becomes about wins and losses, it's not a good place for me to be personally. And so the reason my ministry keeps life in perspective, and man, when I could go and speak and see the light bulb turn on in a kid's mind about their relationship with Christ and what that means for eternity, then that puts all the wins and losses in perspective. I say this all the time. The goal is to win every game in coaching. Are you with me? We don't coach to lose games. The goal is to win every game if we can, right? But the end game in coaching is for us to model the right perspective to these student athletes so that one day they're great fathers, they're great husbands, they're great churchgoers, they're great citizens. And the way we do that is by keeping life in perspective. If it's only about winning and losing, we can lose that. We can lose the right perspective. And so for me, my ministry helps me do that. And that's a daily thing. Like, I'll give you, for instance, yesterday was Sunday, and we go to team church together once a month, me and the whole team, the whole coaching staff. It's non-negotiable. It's
Nice.
as mandatory as weights. It's as mandatory as practice. And so I was speaking at Cypress Baptist Church yesterday in Bossier City, Louisiana. And so we put the team in vans, put the coaching staff in vans, put my wife and kids in the car, put my mom and dad in the car, and we all went to church together. And the reason we do that is to build community, to build culture, but it's also to keep the right perspective. And I think worshiping together is a big, big deal. And so for me, that helps us keep life in perspective, because they'll remember the games, they'll remember the road trips and everything, but they'll also remember the other things you do with them, like worshiping with them, like community service, like whatever it is your program does. And then the last thing I would tell you I do on a daily basis that helps me just stay in a successful mindset is I do a lot of listening. I communicate for a living. I make a living with my voice, okay? But there is power in listening. And I take time every day to listen to my players. I want to hear from them. I can't just tell them what I need them to do every day, but I want to listen to them, and not just listen to them about how things are going in the locker room and how things are going on the court, but I want to listen to them about what's going on in their life. I've always said this: if a player feels like you're using them to win games, they'll never give you their best. But if they believe you truly care about them beyond the court, that's when you tap into the special sauce. That's where you tap into the place where they'll give you their ultimate best because they know you care about them. And that's where you kind of get them. So I spend a lot of time listening to my guys. I have an open door policy. I'm not the head coach that the guys are afraid of. I'm the head coach that has my door open, that they can come in at any moment, tell me what's going on. We talk, we listen, we have meetings, of course, but even in going on through days, I had a kid in here other day, his mom's got cancer. Well, how do you walk through that with a 18-year-old college student who's at school for the first time? How do you walk through with a kid who, lost his grandmother other day, and he's telling you about it, and you have the opportunity to pray with them and help them navigate that. And it's just about being there and doing life with these guys. And I think all of that, I know that's a long answer to a short question, but all of that for me keeps me in a successful mindset. The practices of a successful leader and a successful coach, in my opinion, at least from where I come from.
Coach, there's a lot of gold to unpack right there. First question is, what time are you getting up in the morning?
Oh, man, I'm not an early bird. I will tell you this. I am a late night guy. Okay. And so I go against all the books that say get up at 5 in the morning. I go against all of that. Now I do get up about 7:30 every day. 7:30 is kind of my go time. Obviously I'm not teaching classes. I don't, I have to do any of that anymore. So I'm not up at 6 a.m. But, 7:30, I'm up. I'm into my routine. I'm having my breakfast. I'm getting my son out the door to school. Then I'm in the Word. And then I take my drive to campus when I get all that done and take that hour to get here. And then I'm into my day. But I will tell you this, my days are long. And, tonight I probably won't get home until 9 or 10 p.m. And then I won't go to bed till about 1 or 2. And so, everyone has a different kind of schedule, but I'm a little bit of a night owl, and I need things to be quiet where I can focus and get things done late at night. And so I trade in some of that morning time for the night.
No, that makes sense. You said something that I wrote down about making sure that you're filling yourself up, because I think you're right on the money with coaching. A lot of coaches look at this as a calling, as a ministry, and I'm sure you do the basketball part just the same way that you do, the actual ministry that you're participating in as well. And there is this idea that we're constantly, emptying out and giving to others and giving to others. And my thought was, when you said that, I wonder what coaches are filling themselves up with, because I think we have to be careful with that. If we are emptying ourselves up, but not taking time to refill, or if we are refilling, it's just the same way we talk with our players. What are we putting in our minds? What are we having in front of us? What are we listening to? And obviously, you and I, as believers, filling ourselves up with the word, listening to a great sermon, listening to worship music, that's it. But I think that's just, I don't even have like a point there. It's more of just something for coaches to think about. We want to continue to have our cups filled full so that we can pour out to others. But what are we filling up with? I think that's something important to think about.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, every coach knows this, but we're not just we're not just coaches. I mean, we're counselors, we're psychiatrists, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're social workers sometimes. We're a little bit of everything in the coaching profession. And so we have to be able to be filled up to be able to give so much to our players, because they're watching us, man. They watch everything we do. They watch how we respond in every difficult situation. They're listening to every word we say. And, one of the reasons I got into coaching, I don't know about you, Matt, but for me, one of the reasons I got into coaching is I never really had any great role model coaches in my life growing up. Some guys did, and we're fortunate to have them. But one of the reasons I got into coaching is because I wanted to be the coach to other people that I never had. And it drove me. And I think you can learn a lot from all kinds of coaches, good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can take something from all of them that shape you, right? And so for me, that was part of the reason I got into coaching, was not just to win basketball games. And don't get me wrong, I want to win every one, but to really, really influence a young person's life for a lifetime.
That perspective you have about wins and losses, I do my very, very best. I mean, I've watched Ted Lasso, season 1, where
that's right. Yeah.
No, where he keeps talking about he believe, and it's not, I don't care about wins and losses. Finally, it's not that important. Finally, his assistant coach just screams at him, it is important. But that is professional. But at your level, it pretty much is almost professional basketball at this point, with all the stuff going on out there and the changes. And sometimes it feels like that even at the high school level. But I believe the same way that you do about what we're doing here, and that it is more than about wins and losses. But Coach, how do you get to that point? Because I know you're competitive. Like, again, I've been around you. You don't win 3 state championships at Prestonwood. I don't care how great of players you have. You still got to be competitive and teach those dudes how to play together and want to win. How do you keep that balance when, if I'm being completely transparent, the years where I feel like I do the worst job of coaching are the years where I'm the most stressed about wins and losses? How do you keep that balance?
It's the hardest thing to do. And I think the older I have gotten, I think you look at it differently the older you get. When you're young, you're like, man, I got to win every game. I got to be successful, man. I got to build my resume. These are the things we do. There's nothing wrong with that. I love driven people, passionate people. That's who I am as a person as well. But I think the older I've gotten, the more I've just realized, hey, yeah, we're trying to win every game, but at the end of the day, it's how we go about trying to win every game that matters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My first year here at ETBU, I'll give you for an example. I rebuilt a really bad JUCO program to be successful. And then I took the job at ETBU in the middle of COVID. And our first year here, I came in, I was just like, man, we're going to get this done. And I was just, man, we got to win. And I was just pressing buttons and trying to, I had the players from the last coach still here, some of them. And then I had the new recruiting class that I brought in, and I was trying to get them all on the same page. And man, it was just a mess year 1, but a lot of that had to do with how I was putting so much pressure on them to win and so much pressure on myself to win right away. And it took us 3 years to get this thing where I wanted it, right? It took us 3 recruiting classes. It took us, a couple of years to get it there, which was way too slow for me. I wanted it year one, right? But I think what I found out this last year is that I didn't talk a lot about winning or losing games. We talked a lot about every game on our schedule can either help us achieve our goals or every game could keep us from achieving our goals. And so we literally would write an arrow up and an arrow down on the board every day. It kind of became our motto is what are we going to do tonight? Are we going to use this game to help us achieve our goals? Or are we going to use this game and it'd be the game we look back on and go, man, that's the game that kept us from achieving our goals. And so we didn't talk a lot about winning. We talked a lot about giving our best and our personal best performance as a unit and as a team. And man, that changed our guys and how they valued games, because it's really hard to teach players how to value games, because think about it. We'll play 30 something games in a regular season. Then they all, if they're high school players, they go straight into AAU. They're playing 3 games a day sometimes in AAU tournaments. They don't value games like they used to. It's like, oh, we got another game at 12. We got another game at 6. They're not thinking about winning or losing and how important that game is in that moment. They're just like, we got another game. And so for me at the college level, when we recruit, we bring in high school kids, it's about teaching them how to value every game. And it's not about winning or losing. It's about how do you give your best performance in every game for your team.
That's really good. I never thought about that from a college perspective, how almost not burnt out on playing the game, but how warped the ideas of these high school players coming in might be about what games actually mean, the value in them. Because you're right, the high school level, we play 40 games a year now, and then they're doing 40 to 50 in select. So, and obviously we like to think that in the high school realm, each game does matter. There's district play. There's something that we're working towards. In select, though, there is this idea of, hey, win or loss. Hey, we got a game in 2 hours. No problem. Get past it. So I never thought about that for you guys. I almost having to reshape or reframe how they view each game and the importance of them, but then not letting that teeter too far past to where they start to clinch up. They start to get nervous. They're not playing free anymore. Right. That is a dilemma, man.
Yeah, it is. And it's just the way basketball has changed. And I think there's a lot of value in select ball, and there's a lot of value in school ball. And I think it's both. I had a dad was on the phone with me the other day. He was talking about his kid and his recruitment and all this stuff. And I have these conversations all the time. And he's like, well, his AAU coach says his high school team isn't that important and what he does on his high school team. And his high school coaches tell me it's not that important what AAU team he plays for, what circuit he's on or whatever. And to me, you got to have both. It can't be one versus the other. It's got to be both, helping to shape kids, because I think the greatest thing about high school basketball and select basketball, because it's really all high school basketball, is that they're getting game minutes and they're learning how to manage games and how to play, and their growth by playing games and not being nervous and having more confidence and working through different systems with different voices in their lives and so forth. There's a lot of value in all of that, but it can't be one versus the other. I believe there's value in both. And so, but man, they're playing a ton of games, and it is a challenge when they get to us, because they go from playing that many games to just playing their college.
Almost flipping it.
And man, so much rides. It flips. That's right. Yeah. So it's a challenge.
I've always done my very, very best, especially since coming to Faith, to never put a player in a position where they feel like, it's us versus them, from the high school to select. And I want them to feel free to, I encourage our guys to play. And you remember, from the more that we can have them playing year round, the better they're going to be for us. And so it's almost an expectation in the spring that they do play. But when I can't do it, when I'm telling parents and players, on Team Map, hey, this spring season, our improvement season, Play select ball. I'll help you find a team. Once they do that, though, I can't say, oh, by the way, we also have this, and this you got to do with school ball. Because then they're like, well, wait a minute, like which one are we supposed to be doing? And I think so many times too, we forget that they're kids and they need to have a little bit of time, like let them leave right after school. So my approach has been, I want them to play select ball. Faith basketball ends in February, hopefully early March, and then we'll work out in second period. I'll be their individual skill coach, but faith basketball doesn't start up again besides open gyms, which are truly optional without a wink involved or anything like that. It doesn't begin again until the fall. That's been I think a positive routine or process to where they do that, but they don't feel pressure from me, and I'm encouraging them. I don't know. I think that's the way to go.
And for the guys, I mean, for the high school coaches that do stuff where it's not a lot period where there's a week there you can hit a team camp, and just stay with your team and build some experiences. Even if it's just 4 days in the summer or 3 days, we started doing 1-day team camps here at East Texas Baptist just to take the pressure off the guys to come out here for 3 days in a row and play. But hey, come out here for a day. We'll get you 3 games. You get the experience. You get to hang out. And then you're right back to it. It's a lot easier for them to take 1 day off versus 3 or 4 days off in the middle of the summer when they're in select ball. So I think it's just find the balance, and every coach is different for sure, but I think both are valuable.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.